Hello, everyone, and welcome once again to MechWarrior Online, the Supersmacky edition. Today, I want to give kind of a tutorial, educational episode or video about just some aspects. I don't know if I'm going to start a series on this, but just an idea I wanted to throw out here. And what I'm going to talk about today is the concepts of peeking, poking, and pop-tarting. Nice alliteration there. Some of these terms are common in the game. I kind of have my own definitions for them, what I consider. So just for the sake of starting out and giving us a foundation of where we're going to go from here, peeking is when you're carefully scouting a normally unobserved area. When you're looking out from a point, going around a corner or over a hill, just enough to see if an enemy's there. It's an area where you don't know if the enemy's there or not. Now, poking, on the other hand, is when you know the enemy's there and you're trying to take a harassing shot, or maybe you're trying to finish off an enemy without overly extending yourself. It's a lot in common with peeking, but the main difference being you know something's there, you want to assess it, you want to shoot it, you want to get information on it, something of that nature. And then, of course, pop-tarting, which most people know, but that's where you're using jump jets to clear intervening terrain in order to take a shot. You can also use it as a variation on peeking, but normally when we think pop-tarting, we think shooting. So without any more delay, I'm going to go ahead and go into the testing grounds. I'll be talking more about these concepts and their use, builds that'll go for it. For this particular video, I'm going to be using the Blackjack 3. I use it because it's got side-mounted PPC or side-mounted energy weapons. It does have the center torso, but my particular build, I've put them in the arms, which puts them way out, makes them ideal for peeking around a corner. Also, if you look at them, they're very high. They're up there at cockpit level. So if I'm peeking over terrain, they're not. I'm not exposing a lot of my mech. So I'm going to go ahead and use this just for the sake of this video. Anyway, let's go ahead and go into the testing grounds. All right, so here I am on Crimson Strait. This is a really good map in order to demonstrate everything that I was talking about. Now, just to give kind of a demonstration of what I was talking about initially and to sort of divide up things a little bit. First, we're going to talk about showing or show what peeking is. Peeking is when I don't necessarily intend to fire. I don't know what's on the other side of this, so I just come around. One of the things you want to get used to doing is learning the speed of your mech and when to back it up. You just want to expose just enough to have a look and then get back. Now, poking, on the other hand, is I know something's around that corner and I want to take a shot. Now, again, I have my high mounted PPCs, and if they're at the appropriate range, I come around here and I step back. Now, I don't expose myself any great length of time. Just take the shot and go ahead and return. That's poking because I know something's there. Going back to peeking for a second, what's an alternative I could use? Suppose I don't want to stick things out there for the enemy to see because I'm by myself, or I'm just looking for other alternatives to actually exposing because we're late game and maybe the enemy has more tonnage than me, or something of that nature. Well, I have seismic sensor that I can put on there, which I highly recommend that you get. It's expensive, but it makes up for itself. Seismic sensor, if anything's within the range of the seismic sensor and it's moving, I'm going to detect it here. So then I don't even have to peek for at least a good bit of distance, up to like that road up there. Another alternative is to use the UAV. You'll notice that I have the UAV loaded up. Now, the difference there is it's going to definitely give my position away. If somebody has seismic sensor and I'm moving around back here and they're within the range, they're going to pick me up. But if they don't, but let's say for some reason they're looking this direction and I pop that UAV, unless they're just really not paying attention, they're going to notice that UAV going up. All right, so then let's go on to the other thing, is pop-tarting. Now, pop-tarting can be used as peeking, but generally it's associated when you're actually going to take a shot at the enemy, but you want to limit their ability to return fire to you. So something of that nature. Now let's find something that's demonstrates it a little bit better here before I actually go on to a real target. Okay, let's say that rock right there, the base of that rock, is what I'm dealing with, and I just want to take a quick shot and not give him a chance. This is the basics of pop-tarting. Just come up and drop back down. Generally, before they have a chance to respond, you're going to be back in cover. So now let's just go ahead and show what some of that looks like. Anybody who's familiar with this map knows that there's an atlas right around this corner, but for the sake of this, we're going to pretend I don't. I come up here, I'm peeking, don't see anything. Up there's
Target
an enemy.
Acquired.
Then I see it's an atlas. All right. So now I've peeked that. Now it could be a lot of enemies, in which case I might
acquired.
cycle through all of them, or it could be just that one. Now he's not going to see me from that position. I could take a shot, but that's not the most effective shot. I'm either going to hit a torso, might hit his leg. If he's being fired at by friendlies, I might want to do that. Or put a shot into his leg. He may not realize where it's coming from. But generally not the most effective shot. The best case I'm going to get here, if I could hit his head, is center torso, something of that nature, but not the most effective shot. So now I know he's there. He doesn't know I'm there. So I'm going to go ahead and, let's say, reposition. And this, again, just for the sake of this. Now, again, since all these enemy targets are static, we're going to ignore that generator back there, because it would cause me all sorts of trouble if it were live. So I know he's there. I can come up here, I can peek through here, I can see him. Don't really have an effective shot here, but he's distracted. So I step out, take a shot. Notice my first shot hit that building. That's okay, because I'm just trying to take quick shots. The longer I expose myself, the more likely he's going to get a shot back on me. That's poking. That's where I'm just either trying to get his attention, throw a little damage in. Maybe he's almost dead, but yet he's got a lot of weapons. So I'm just taking quick shots in him. Now that's poking. Now let's turn it into pop-tarting. How would I pop-tart? I see him. I get a good clean shot. Up over that building, drop down. He doesn't have a good shot against me. And I'll show in a minute some other variations of that. Pop-tarting really is just clearing terrain. In a broader sense, it's anytime you use your jump jet to get an advantage in being able to return fire. So you don't necessarily have to use it with terrain, but it generally is in order to clear terrain that limits the enemy. And see, in a case like that, he has very little chance of returning effective fire. Now, one thing you want to consider, we talked about alternatives to peeking out there. There's no alternative in poking, because if you want to do damage, you're going to have to step out there and be seen. But one of the things, one of the concepts we want to talk about here is trades. You know, you never want fair trades. You don't want even trades. You don't want the enemy to have an advantage in trade. If I step around here and I see him, now that right there is about the only thing that works to my advantage, is that little spot. But given the firepower on that thing, that Atlas, I have damaged one of the lasers, but 4 medium lasers, an AC-20, LRM-20, and SRM-6, I'm all in effective range of all those weapons. This is not poking, peeking, pop-tarting, whatever. This is not going to end well for me if I keep doing this corner right here. So watch your trades. No matter which one of those you're doing, watch your trades. You never want the trades to be fair. Fight underhanded. You don't have to keep offering them a target that they know they can beat, or that they can outlast, or that they have friendlies coming up, or things of that nature. Trades should always be in your favor, which, speaking of that, goes into another point when we're talking about the trades and peeking, poking, pop-tarting. Change positions. Don't keep doing the same thing just because. Let's say you see him, but there's a Daka bear right over there, and he's seeing these shots come in. Well, the next thing he's going to do is step out around that corner or around here, and he's going to start face tanking you. And in something like this blackjack, you're not going to be able to stand up that, and you're likely not going to be able to get away unless you're just purposely trying to lure your enemy into it, your enemy into some sort of ambush. But part of the reason that you change up positions is not just when they know where you are, but when you don't know where all the enemy are. Because if they can observe your fire, if they see where you're shooting from, then they're going to maneuver on you. We'll take, for instance, that Jenner back there that I didn't realize was there, and I come out here, I'm having a good old time doing this, and then all of a sudden I'm poured out in the back, and it's because I wasn't aware that where that Jenner was. You take 2 or 3 shots from a position like that, unless you're well surrounded by your enemy, your friendlies in a good position, and then you move out of there. All right, let's go ahead. Actually, hold on. 2 other things before I move on. One, think about your range. You'll notice here I've got a 90 meter minimum range. He's 221. That gives me a little room to play with. If he was at 100 meters, 120 meters, I don't have a lot of room, both in his maneuvering ability and to be able to throw out shots. So be aware of your ranges. Make sure that the ranges you're engaging at are beneficial to you and either equal to the enemy, equal for the enemy, or less effective for them. If now I'm using PPCs, which give me a lot of reach, but let's say he's got 4 PPCs. If he's facing me, any range is bad for me. So that's something I would give up. But let's say it's this Jenner over here, and this Jenner was the variant that had the 6 energy points, and he's running small pulses. Well, this is not a good range, but not a good range of trade because of his rate of fire. But this range is. I'll make the point on that. Also, when you're in a position and you're firing at the enemy, make sure you already have your evasion plan worked out. If you've got friendlies, then your evasion plan is just to fall back in your friendlies. But let's say you're kind of out here on your own, your flanks off that way a little bit, the rest of your enemies, your friendlies are off that way a little bit. Where are you going to go if you suddenly get pushed from there, or he starts coming towards you or something like that? Make sure you have your evasion plan worked out, whether you're peeking or poking, or as I brought up, pop-tarting. Now, like I talked about before, pop-tarting is generally used to get over terrain in order to be able to take a shot, limiting the effective fire from the enemy in return. So simple enough like this. Missed that shot. Let's try that again. Now you notice one of the things you want to do is you want to wait till you stop using the jump jets before you actually fire. And I'll show you why. Now one of those hit, one of them went way off. If you'll notice, the cursor is jumping all over the place. So I don't have a real good aim. But if I wait for my moment, then I can take my shot and the cursor, the crosshair there will be completely steady. Another thing you can do is you can use lateral movement in order to further confuse the enemy's aim. Caught on that building, and that would likely be death for me. But you see what I'm talking about. Using that lateral movement forces them to adjust to your movements in multiple planes. They not only have to consider your horizontal, your level movement, but now they have to consider your vertical movement. If you're doing it kind of at a mix like this, now you're also changing the ranges. You can do the same thing. I'll just show you can do the same thing backwards. But all that's pop-tarting. And as you notice, that's not all to get around cover. I can use it right out in the open, because any movement at all is going to make it more difficult for him to aim. And you could just walk along, but you're pretty much going to be at a constant speed walking along. If I start jumping, it makes it much more difficult for him to track, because he doesn't know when I'm going to let off my jump jets, when I'm not. One thing I want to show you about using the jump jets with that is, if it's possible, reserve some of your jump jet energy so that you make a soft landing. If not, let's just, you don't want to give the enemy free damage. I go all the way up
at 25%,
and then fall from there
at 0%.
Now it's not a lot of damage, but that may be a point or two that I need later on. So what makes you effective in any of the roles, the peeking, the poking, or the pop-tarting? Well, three things that I could think of, and one is speed, the other is firepower, and then ECM. Speed is going to help you get in and out of situations quickly. Firepower is how much damage you can deal out in a very short period of time. Now, there are some weapons that will deal a large amount of damage over time, but there are other weapons that are much better suited for that role, particularly for the poking or the peeking. The PPCs are, excuse me, the poking or the pop-tarting, because I just have to squeeze that trigger and all the damage has gone down range. It's fire and forget. If I'm using lasers, I've got burn time. It may not be very long, but that's more time that I have to be exposed if I really want to get a shot. Now, I can take the shot with those, but that's quicker. I can, and I'm not even as good as some people. So we're just, because I can fire and then turn away right away, or I can fire and jump away or anything like that at the same time. So it's instantaneous fire is better, whether it's an AC, a Gauss, or a PPC. Those are going to be better for a role of or pop tarting or poking because it limits your exposure. Um, the ECM, what that's going to do for you is going to make it harder for the enemy to lock onto you. It's going to make it harder for them to quickly get a lock and start pouring LRMs on you, which is what you don't want, or a lock to be able to tell what you are, or even just to see you. Because if you have ECM, unless they're within a certain range, they're not going to know you're there unless they actually physically see your mech or have seismic or a UAV or something else like that that's going to counter that. Um, Having two of those is generally what you want to strive for. You either want speed and ECM, firepower and ECM, speed and firepower, two of those. You can carry it off with one, but generally speaking, particularly for poking or pop darting, you're going to want at least two of those. It would generally be better for you. Going back over a couple of points, you use peeking when it's early game or late game, and you're trying to figure out where the enemy is, what they're made up of, how they're facing, things of that nature. You're trying to establish the enemy. You're looking in a previously unobserved area. Poking is when you know somebody's there and you want to take a quick shot at them. It's not for a stand-up trade. Stand-up trade is just this.
Target destroyed.
It's just me standing there, them standing there, us shooting at each other. Or even a maneuver battle. It's not this. It's not just me shooting at him shooting at me. Poking is when you're specifically trying to get just a quick shot on the enemy, whether you even hit or not. It's kind of not even the point, but just a quick shot on the enemy. Of course, pop darting to just effectively use your train. Alternatives for the peaking: UAV, seismic, UAV or seismic sensor. Good ways to be able to peek a corner with a limited range. Remember, the UAV is going to give you away if they're watching. If they have seismic sensor and they're within range of that corner or that hilltop or whatever, that's also going to give you away. But those are our alternatives. Trades, always keep them on your side. Don't ever make them beneficial to the enemy. Change your positions. Change them as often as possible. If it's possible for you to do it repeatedly within a reasonably small space, do it. Take a shot, move 50 meters to the side, take another shot, whatever you have to do in that regard. Keep the range favorable to you and unfavorable to the enemy. Have an invasion plan ready for your position. Remember your effectiveness, the things that are going to make you effectiveness. There are mechs that are effective in these roles, and there are mechs that are not effective in these roles. Generally, an assault, most times, in most cases, not every case, but an assault shouldn't be peeking. Assault shouldn't be poking. An assault should be wrecking face, is what an assault should be doing. So generally, it's going to tend towards the faster, lighter mechs. Some can do it, but again, that's just kind of my little caveat there. I hope this has been helpful to you. Stare at that rock all day.
At 25%.
And once again, thank you very much for watching this. If you watched this all the way through, I know this may not be exactly what goes with everybody's ideas, or I may have missed on some points, but I just kind of wanted to go over a few things maybe to help some people. Remember your situations when you're using these, and there are always exceptions to the rules. Nothing is hard and fast. But I do hope that you got something out of this and that you enjoyed it. Hope it's useful to you. And of course, I thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please like, share, and subscribe. Please feel free to comment. Your questions and your feedback are greatly appreciated. And of course, as always, in all of your gaming, good luck and have fun. Bye-bye.